Ernest Shackleton's ship Endurance, lost in 1915, was found in the frigid waters of Antarctica. Ernest Shackleton's lost ice ship Endurance has been found in the waters of the Weddell Sea in Antarctica, crushed and sank by thick ice in 1915 during Shackleton's failed attempt to cross the continent of Antarctica. The Endurance has remained lost to the depths for more than a century. The wreck has now been found, photographed and studied by members of the Endurance expedition, which set out in February 2022 to search for the wreck. After weeks of seafloor research, the shipwreck was discovered in early March 2022, 100 years after Shackleton's death in 1922. In footage captured by the Endurance 22 team using an underwater vehicle, the Endurance is seen in exquisite detail with pulleys slung over the deck and ship's steering wheel upright and the brass inscription Endurance on the stern shield shining after a century underwater. The Endurance 2022 expedition left South Africa for Antarctica on the SA Alugus II, a polar icebreaker and research vessel commanded by Knowledge Bengu. The expedition was given 35 days to search for the missing remains with the option to extend it to 45 days. Extensions were taken and the remains were found in the last week of the available search time. Its durability is found at a depth of 3008 meters. The shipwrecks are protected by the Antarctic Treaty, which classifies them as historic sites and monuments, meaning it cannot be disturbed. The Endurance 22 team used SAP's advanced underwater search vehicle Sabertooth to survey and document the location of the wreck without touching it. History Hit and media network Little Dot Studios joined forces as media partners for the Endurance 22 expedition, funded by the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust. Dan Snow, founder and creative director of History Hit, documented the expedition in real time on History Hit TV, historyhit.com and the History Hit podcast network, as well as on the social media channels including Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. National Geographic has partnered exclusively with History Hit, Little Dot Studios and production company Constitutional based on an epic documentary detailing the success of Endurance quest and discovery. The film is scheduled to premiere in fall 2022 as a part of National Geographic Explorer series on National Geographic channels and Disney+. Endurance 22's wider team includes marine archaeologists, engineers, scientists, and extreme environment film directors. When the Endurance sinks, its approximate position is calculated by its captain, Frank Worsley. However, it was an overcast day, so Worsley was unable to use the sun to determine his position. Instead, he used what the sextants had said over the past few days to estimate the direction the ice was moving and determine the rough coordinates of where the ship had crashed. To try to find shipwrecks more than a century later, the Endurance 22 team drew a search and area around Worsley's calculated coordinates and used hybrid submarines to look for the ships and anomalies on the ocean floor. Resistance is about 4 miles south of Worsley's assumed position. Dr. Jan Shears, the polar geographer who led the Endurance 22 expedition, said, "We have made polar history with the discovery of Endurance and successfully completed the world's most challenging search for wrecks. Enabling a new generation from around the world to engage with Endurance 22 is too busy." The Shackleton's Empire Trans-Antarctic Expedition hoped to make the first land crossing of the continent of Antarctica. The plan was to sail from South Georgia to Hassel Bay in Antarctica. From there, the men who traveled in dog sleds and walked to Ross Sea cross mainland Antarctica across the South Pole. On December 5, 1914, Ernest Shackleton left South Georgia for Antarctica despite warnings from South Georgia whalers that the Weddell Sea was unnavigable that year because of the thick ice sheet. Shortly thereafter, on January 18, 1915, Endurance was trapped in the Weddell Sea It took 10 months locked in the pack before rising pressure forced the stern of the ship into the air and towed the rudder. Endurance sank on November 21, 1915. The standard crew then make a perilous journey by land, ice and sea back to South Georgia and civilization. All 28 people survived. Endurance remained unseen, lost in the icy waters of Weddell Sea for nearly 107 years. Thanks.